Your success as a student who can effectively gain, retain, and explain information must rest on a strong foundation of skills that will serve you well through college and beyond. Like the basic courses that act as springboards for advanced study, learning to set goals, get organized, maintain your concentration, and manage your stress should provide a sturdy base on which you can build your academic success. This part will help you to 1. Know what you're aiming for. 2. Use your time and space effectively. 3. Stay focused. 4. Learn how to handle pressure, retaining, gaining, explaining, march to your own rhythm, change the meaning of GPA, resist the tug of crowd, pursue quality instead of quantity, know what you're aiming for, define your goal, devise a plan, harness the power of imaging, take action. Most of us go to our graves with our music still inside us. Oliver Wendell Holmes. American physician and writer. There's something deep inside each of us that yearns for fulfillment. We were meant for something to which our nature inclines, but what? No one really knows. So, you yourself must dig. Dig, but for what? Start by digging for happiness. Ask, what kind of work would I be happiest in? Doesn't it make sense that every day's work should be a joy? In this chapter, you can begin to focus your life as you read how to march to your own rhythm, decide what would make you happy, redefine your GPA, know what you're aiming for. Chapter 1. Goal setting. Goals bring meaning to life, otherwise, life can be aimless. Viktor Frankl's research revealed these stark data. When 60 students were asked why they had attempted suicide, 85% said the reason had been that life was meaningless. Goals have to go beyond earning your bread and butter, as is shown in the following slice of human life. Governments, guided by social scientists, used to say that if you just improve the socio-economic status of the people, everything will be okay, people will become happy. The truth is that as the struggle for survival has subsided, the question has emerged, survival for what? Ever more people today have the means to life, but no meaning to live for. Goals and purpose breathe meaning into life. Goals and purpose form the psychological underpinnings of our individual lives. There's power in purpose, as is shown in this excerpt. We cannot have deep and enduring satisfaction unless we have self-worth. We cannot have self-worth unless our lives are an earnest attempt to express the finest and most enduring qualities that we are aware of. Purpose is an important condition for an enduring satisfaction with life. March to your own rhythm. The 19th century American writer, philosopher, and naturalist Henry David Thoreau famously wrote, "If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away." This doesn't mean, as some have suggested, that you need to be an outcast or iconoclast or that you have to live alone in the woods of Walden Pond, as Thoreau once did. Many people who are intricately woven into the fabric of society still manage to adhere to ideals that they have sharpened and defined on their own. To bring meaning into your life, you must decide on your own goal. Avoid the trap of surrendering to the expectations of others instead of pursuing a goal that is personally meaningful. 1. Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist and psychotherapist, created the theory of logotherapy, which states that a person's primary motivation is his or her search for meaning in life. Richard J. Leiter, The Power of Purpose, p. 35. 3. Ibid. Henry David Thoreau, Walden and Resistance to Civil Government, 2nd ed., p. 217. What are the risks of having no goal? How do goals go beyond simple survival? How do goals relate to purpose? What was Thoreau's advice? How can you bring meaning into your life? This doesn't mean that you shouldn't discuss your goals with friends and family. It is helpful to ponder their thoughts and advice. But process these through your own brain cells and heart cells, and then make a decision, which must be your very own. Above all, set your own pace instead of marching along with the crowd. Resist the tug of the crowd. Reframing, self-direction. When you become part of the crowd, your individual thinking is replaced by crowd psychology. Here's how Gustave Le Bon, a French social scientist, described crowd psychology. The most striking peculiarity presented by a psychological crowd is the following: whoever be the individuals that compose it, however like or unlike be their mode of life, their occupations, their character, or their intelligence, The fact that they have been transformed into a crowd puts them in possession of a sort of collective mind which makes them feel, think, and act in a manner quite different from that in which each individual of them would feel, think, and act were he in a state of isolation. Le Bon's observations about crowds were adopted and furthered by Edson Gould, one of the most respected names on Wall Street, who used this easily visualized example to illustrate how the individual is almost powerless to resist the powerful magnetism of the crowd. You're alone in an empty movie theater and hear the cry of fire. You look around, see no flames, smell no smoke, you calmly walk to the nearest exit. But, repeat the same cry of fire in a crowded theater and once the crowd starts running for an exit, you'll find yourself running, too. That's crowd psychology. Don't let crowd psychology rob you of your independence or rob you of your freedom to think and decide individually. In sum, preserve yourself as a sovereign individual so that, for better or for worse, you are the ruler of your career and destiny. Harness the power of imaging, reframing, self-direction. A goal is much more than just a simple statement. Actually, it's a vivid dream that has been mentally acted and reenacted. What lawyer hasn't first imagined presenting a, quoted in Dan Sullivan, the Chartist, 4, quoted in Edson Gould, Findings, and Forecasts? What role should friends and family play in your goals? What happens when people think as a crowd instead of individually? What did Gould observe about the psychology of a crowd? What should you guard against in crowd psychology? In what way does a goal go beyond a statement? Closing argument to judge and jury? What business executive hasn't imagined outlining an exciting plan to staff members seated around the board of directors table? Although imagined is generally used to denote imagination. In his landmark book Positive Imaging, Norman Vincent Peale used the word imaging to convey a much deeper concept. Imaging consists of vividly picturing, in your conscious mind, a desired goal or objective, and holding that image until it sinks into your unconscious mind, where it releases great, untapped energies. So, if we think deeply enough and image vividly enough about what we want to do with our lives, our whole being can be energized. Peale, who is one of the most widely read inspirational writers of all time, goes on to say, there is a powerful and mysterious force in human nature that is capable of bringing about dramatic improvement in our lives. It is a kind of mental engineering. In imaging, one does not merely think about a hoped-for goal, one sees or visualizes it with tremendous intensity. Imaging is a kind of laser beam of the imagination, a shaft of mental energy in which the desired goal or outcome is pictured so vividly by the conscious mind that the unconscious mind accepts it and is activated by it. This releases powerful internal forces that can bring about astonishing changes in the life of the person who is doing the imaging. Pursue quality instead of quantity. Self-direction. Over time, Peale's pristine image of a goal has been diluted by the dollar sign. Everyone, it seems, is out to make money. Look at the crowds thronging the racetracks, the casinos, the state lotteries, and even the frequently bubbling stock market. Apparently this money idea has steadily seeped into the career goals of students. According to a poll conducted by consulting firm KPMG, New York, 3 out of 4 college students expect to become millionaires. The siren song of money may be difficult to ignore, but is it really the key to happiness or the true mark of success? John Rao, who has been the CEO of 3 corporations, Dean of Indiana University's Business School, and no stranger to success himself, offers a straight-shooting sanity check for students who are thinking of. Norman Vincent Peale, Positive Imaging. Copyright 1982. Published by Revel, a division of Baker Publishing Group. Used with permission. Pamela Sebastian, The Wall Street Journal, p. A1. What is Peale's explanation of imaging? How does imaging your goal affect it? How has money affected the way we define goals? What advice does John Rao give his students? What do you want to be when you grow up? If you're like me, the last time someone asked you this question was quite some time ago. Most of us guys probably responded with something like a fireman, for a stranger, cop, race car driver, or even the president. I'm not being sexist, but if you're female you probably answered the above question with occupations like a model, flight attendant, school teacher, or movie star. You chose these answers because at the time you thought these endeavors would be enjoyable, you could visualize being happy. Maybe a more appropriate question than what do you want to be when you grow up? Would have been what would make you happy? And since the answer to this question changes throughout your life, it's a question we really need to ask ourselves more often. When was the last time you actually got away by yourself and seriously thought about what you needed to be happy? Maybe it's time to do so. As hectic as life has become, we see happiness as a luxury. Surveys have shown that most people really don't believe it's possible to be happy the majority of the time. They think that true happiness is an unobtainable goal, it's an unpredictable, fleeting sensation over which one has little control. But accepting this idea, that you have no or little control over your own happiness, can have serious health consequences. Happiness is just as important, if not more so, to good health as proper nutrition and adequate exercise. Happiness is a powerful healing force. On the opposite side of the coin we have stress. There seems to be an inverse relationship between stress and happiness. In other words, less happiness leads to more stress. And stress can be an extremely powerful destructive force. Stress is one of the best examples of the power the mind can have over the body. In animal studies, French researchers at the University of Bordeaux have recently shown that depression and anxiety in adults can be a direct result of placing the mother under stress prior to birth. Stress causes the adrenal glands to produce more of the stress hormone, corticosterone. Corticosterone easily passes from the mother to the fetus through the placenta. Consistently high levels of corticosterone desensitize brain receptors, altering the feedback system and making it more difficult to shut down the excess. 10 quoted in Hal Lancaster, Managing Your Career, The Wall Street Journal, p. B1, Sacrificing Quality in the Pursuit of Quantity. Unless you're doing the stuff you like, he cautions, you can burn out. 10. In line with Rao's succinct pronouncement, Dr. David G. Williams pulls no punches. Few people know more about burnout than medical doctors. After years of treating people who were experiencing burnout, Dr. Williams wrote this compelling article on choosing a career that will enhance the possibilities of living a healthier life. What does Dr. Williams conclude about defining your goals? Corticosterone production. After birth, these receptors in the brain remain desensitized, which can lead to suppression of the immune system, depression and anxiety later in life. In an amazing study recently performed at Columbia University, New York, researchers found that young girls who suffer from undue stress grow up to be 5 centimeters shorter than their happier contemporaries. Stress stunts their growth by depressing the levels of growth hormone in the body. Volumes have been written on the detrimental effects of stress, and while I won't bore you with all the detailed research here, stress has been linked to everything from asthma and cardiovascular disease to cancer and practically every disease in between. The point to be made here is that happiness replaces and counteracts stress. Probably more than any other single factor, discovering and acting on what makes you happy can improve both the quality and length of your life. Over the next few hours, days and weeks, I urge you to invest some time in seriously deciding what you want out of life. What would make you happy? I am not talking about what would make you happy for a moment or a day, but instead, what you want and need to be happy for the long term. I can assure you it will be one of the most productive things you will ever do. Discovering what it would take for you to be happy is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful tools you'll ever possess. It defines your basis for living. It gives you a purpose and provides the answers to life's day-to-day problems. It almost miraculously provides direction at each of life's crossroads. It crystallizes and clarifies your day-to-day goals and activities. It allows you to focus your talents and energies toward achieving the rewards that are most important to you. If you can't honestly verbalize what you need to make you happy, you're going to wander aimlessly throughout life. The clock keeps ticking whether you decide to answer what would make me happy or not. Instead of participating and reveling in life, you end up simply reacting to situation after situation. You unquestionably embrace the idea that your own happiness is out of your control. You then begin to believe that it will suddenly appear just as soon as someone or something in your life changes. Unfortunately, that's like playing the state lottery. Your chances of getting hit by lightning are far better than finding real happiness and meaning in your life. Most of us have a tendency to take life much too seriously. When we were younger, it was easier to be less serious. It reminds me of a Bob Dylan song, in which he says, "If you ain't got nothing, you ain't got nothing to lose." The older and more responsible we become, the more we feel we have to lose. We begin to perceive changes in our lives as risks rather than opportunities. As such, we try to avoid change. But in reality, change is not something over which we have any control. I'm sure you've heard the saying that there are only two things you can count on, death and taxes. Well, there are actually a couple more. One is that your surroundings will change. Technology changes. Weather changes. People change. Everything changes. Always has. Always will. Accept it. Accept the fact that people and situations are always going to be changing throughout your life. Fighting change is like swimming against the current in a river. You're so busy trying to keep your head above water that you never get a chance to see or enjoy what's on the bank. The quicker you accept the fact that everything will change, the quicker you can get out of the water. You can sit on the bank, relax for a moment and evaluate your surroundings. In a life that's always too short, you can then decide how best to spend your remaining time. This brings up the other thing you can always count on, the God-given, human ability to make choices. Through changes in your thinking, your actions and your lifestyle, you can choose to live your life in a state of unhappiness or in a state of happiness. It's totally up to you. Although it was several decades ago, I remember sitting at my desk in Mrs. Binger's first grade class back in Friona, Texas. Above the chalkboard there were two large handwritten signs. One read, "Act the way you want to be and soon you'll be the way you act." It's probably one of the more lasting lessons I've learned in life thus far. Before you can act the way you want to be, and before you can expect to find happiness, you must answer that one simple question. What would make me happy? It's a difficult question, probably the most difficult you'll ever have to answer. Getting the answer will require some time and serious thinking. Strangely, there's no right or wrong answer, and even stranger is the fact that only you know the answer. Don't think of this as some kind of test. Nobody is going to give you a grade or set any time limits. The only way you can really fail is aimlessly wandering through life and simply not answering the question at all. So what do you want to be when you grow up? What would make you happy? Dr. David G. Williams, what do you want to be when you grow up? From Alternatives for the Health Conscious Individual, Volume 6, Number 15, September 1996, 119, 120. Copyright 1996, Mountain Home Publishing. Reproduced with permission of Healthy Directions. Change the meaning of GPA. If you want to make it in college, your GPA is the key. Students who tell you this are talking about your grade point average, your report card, the number of A's and B's you get in relation to the number of C's, D's, and F's. Grades are certainly important, but they aren't as important as another GPA, your goal, your plan, and the action you take. If you really want to make it, that's the GPA you should strive for. If you are able to set a specific goal in your life, if you can come up with an efficient plan for that goal, and what is the best way to become a success? If you have the discipline to take action, there's an excellent chance that you will be headed down the road to success. Define your goal. Focusing, where are you headed? That's the question that your goal is designed to answer. Imagine throwing ingredients into a mixing bowl without any idea of what you are making. Think of running around on the basketball court with no knowledge of the object of the game. The best cooks and the best basketball players know what they are doing and why they are doing it. They have a clear idea of where they are headed. In short, they have a goal in mind. Although winning a basketball game and baking a cake can both be seen as goals, it can be easier to think of your goal as a kind of destination. A lot of our common expressions use this idea: making it to the top, climbing the corporate ladder, and even reaching for the stars portray the goal as a place in the distance that you are trying to reach. Of course, some goals really are destinations. When American pioneers declared that their goal was Pikes Peak or bust and tacked signs to their wagons that said so, they were talking about an actual destination hundreds of miles to the west and more than 14,000 feet above sea level. When John F. Kennedy made the moon the country's goal in 1961, he was aiming for a destination that was about 238,900 miles out into space. Although Pikes Peak has long since been reached and climbed, climbing a mountain remains a vivid metaphor for reaching one's goal, and although President Kennedy's speech was delivered almost half a century ago, To this day it remains one of the best examples of a clearly defined goal that was achieved through planning and action. Set minor goals. Your life should be full of both major and minor goals. Most of us set minor goals all the time. Passing a test can be seen as a minor goal. So can completing a homework assignment or even finishing a chapter before dinner time. Having minor goals can be a great help. Each time we reach a minor goal, we get a small sense of victory that helps spur us on towards something even bigger. Notice in a basketball game how the crowd cheers and the scoring team's pace quickens each time a basket is made. Everyone knows that one basket by itself won't win the game, but when the score is added up, each basket can prove to be crucial. The same is true in school. Although no one has gained success by virtue of a single test or paper, these little victories will add up and help you move toward your major goal. In the meantime, minor goals provide the encouragement you need to cheer yourself on and quicken your pace. Set major goals. Choosing a major goal will come naturally for some, while it may be an agonizing process for others. For every person who says, "I've always wanted to be a doctor," or what is the purpose of a goal? It's your cue. How do minor goals help? How do you choose your major goal? Know that teaching others is what really matters to me. There are those who complain, "There's really nothing I'm interested in," or "I'm interested in practically everything, how am I ever going to choose?" Although goals may vary widely from person to person, they all grow out of the same source: the things we want and need. Therefore, choosing your goal means deciding what you value most in life. Your major goal should be large and distant. It should be a target that you can aim for, something to inspire you. Don't let short-term minor goals such as finishing an assignment, passing an exam, and simply getting through the day mark the limits of your dreams. Aim high, but at the same time be sure that the goals you set are specific and distinct. Health, happiness, security, love, and money are all ideals that people aim for, but they are far too vague to be considered goals. On the other hand, discovering a cure for cancer and becoming the best possible parent are both admirable and specific goals that can help you approach the broad ideals we all share. It's your cue, the goal. First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. The plan: the Mercury program, the Gemini program, the Apollo program. Each rocket would send a single astronaut into space. Each rocket would send 2 men into space to orbit the Earth, to practice docking with other spacecraft, and to test human beings' ability to withstand prolonged periods in space. Each rocket would send 3 men into space in order to leave the Earth's orbit, to orbit the Moon, and eventually to land on the Moon and explore it. A famous goal, plan, and action. President John F. Kennedy before a joint session of Congress May 25, 1961. The action: the United States sent 20 manned flights into space between May 1961 and June 1969. In July 1969, 8 years and 2 months after President Kennedy set the country's original goal, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin set foot on the Moon and returned safely to Earth. Figure 1.1. The sky's the limit. President Kennedy's ambitious lunar goal remains a model for goal setting to this day. Make your goal official. If the goal you have chosen is a clear one, you should have no trouble writing it down. Goals that stay only in your head have too great a chance of remaining vague. Furthermore, once you write down your goal, that written record can act as a constant reminder. If you're feeling discouraged, a quick look at your goal can inspire you, and if for some reason you forget your goal, a written description can refresh your memory. The purpose of a goal is not to force you on a course that you don't want to follow, it is to give you a target so that your efforts can be more focused than they would be if you had nothing to aim for. Time and fate have a way of shifting our priorities. People change, and so do the things they view as important. If the goal you once wrote down no longer matches your ambition in life, come up with another goal to replace it. Devise a plan. Planning. If you think of your goal as your destination, then a plan can be seen as the route that will take you there. Coming up with a plan is like drawing a map. You need to know where you are starting, where you are heading, and where you plan to stop along the way. Most goals will have several possible plans. The challenge comes in choosing the best one. An efficient plan is a balancing act between what you need and want and what you are able to pay. Paying, as far as a plan is concerned, doesn't always mean money. It can mean time and energy as well. For example, a 1-week plan for reviewing your notes is too expensive if the test is only 2 days away. In the same way, a plan that forces you to stay up all night will often cost too much because what you gain in knowledge you will lose in sleep. The most efficient plan will meet your goal without being too costly. The best plans aren't always obvious from the outset. For example, many students approach an exam by answering questions as soon as they receive the test. Given the time limit, that plan may seem to make sense, even though it's actually a bad idea. The most efficient strategy is to read the exam directions, look over all the questions, and even come up with a time plan before answering a single question. The first plan is fast but reckless, whereas the second is steady and dependable. Now you have a more structured and efficient approach to test taking. When you make an effort to devise a systematic plan, you will usually gain more benefits than you would with a hastily drawn up strategy. Devising the best plan can require flexible thinking. For example, when you look at a map, you may conclude, as commercial airline navigators once did, that the best way to get from Amsterdam to Tokyo is to head in an easterly direction along what is known as the Mediterranean route. But look at a globe instead of a map, and your perspective. What should you do with your goal once you've chosen it? What should you do if your priorities change? How does your plan relate to your goal? How can you choose the most efficient plan? What sort of plans are the best? What sort of impact should flexible thinking have on your goal? May change. Rather than heading east on the Mediterranean route, commercial planes going from Amsterdam to Tokyo now fly north. That's right, they take what is known as the polar route, flying over the North Pole to Alaska, and then west to Tokyo, for a savings of roughly 1,500 miles. The lesson is this: after you've decided on a goal, work vigorously to accomplish it. But keep looking for ways of achieving the goal more efficiently, perhaps from a different angle. This approach is sometimes known as reframing. No single plan will work for every goal, and few plans are flexible enough to work for several goals. Using the wrong plan can be inefficient and sometimes even comical. Perhaps you remember the folktale about the lazy son who gets scolded by his mother for losing the money he received as payment from a local farmer. Next time you get paid, she tells him sternly, "Be sure to carry it home in your pocket." But the following day the boy goes to work for a dairy farmer who pays him with a pail of milk instead of money. Anxious not to anger his mother, the boy dutifully pours the milk into his pocket. Although his mother's plan was a good one, it could work only when used in the right circumstance. The same idea applies to your study plans. For example, writing out your notes in full sentences makes sense if the goal is to study a textbook assignment. But if you use the same plan for taking lecture notes, you'd move so slowly that you'd miss most of what the instructor said. The secret is to find a plan that fits the goal you have in mind. In the same way that good plans may not work for every goal, plans that work for most people may not always work for you. That's why the best way to come up with a plan for success is to balance wise advice with your own experience. This book is full of plans for success and tricks of the trade. All of them have been proven to work, and most should work for you. Use trial and error to determine which plans work best for you, and be prepared to adapt some plans to better fit your needs. Even the best plans can fail if they are used too rigidly. Allow a little breathing room. If things go wrong, don't give up. Adjust and keep on going. When is a good plan the wrong plan? It's your cue. The GPA of success, goal, should reflect your wants and needs. Make it large and ambitious without being vague. Write it down. Plan lists the route you plan to take in order to reach your goal. It should be efficient and specific. Good advice and personal experience combine to create the most effective plans. Action brings your goal and your plan to life. Requires confidence, self-discipline, and a power over procrastination. Figure 1.2 A new way to view GPA. Take action, self-direction. Goals and plans won't do you any good unless you take some action. Action is the spark that brings your goal and plan to life. Without action, goals and plans are moot. You can decide you want to finish a book, and you can even plan the pages that you need to read each day, but until you actually start reading, all your preparations will be pointless. In the same way, the goal to reach the moon and the plans for the spacecraft were impressive, but they didn't come to life until the first rocket left the launch pad and headed into space. Overcome your obstacles. Having a goal and a plan is no guarantee that you will take action. Procrastination stops many people from taking action. Procrastination is the tendency to put things off, to write that paper the night before it is due, to cram for a test instead of studying for it right from the start. Although it is just one of many common bad habits, procrastination may be the single greatest obstacle to success. It is also, as we'll see in Chapter 4, a prime source of stress. The first step in fighting procrastination is to develop a goal and a plan. If you have a goal and a plan but you're still procrastinating, you should take aim at your excuses for not getting your work done. Dream up reasons why you can instead of reasons why you can't. That will often be all it takes to pull yourself out of the vicious circle of inactivity and low self-esteem and put yourself on the road to progress and success. This chapter would not be complete without more wisdom from Norman Vincent Peale, who expresses the vital importance of taking action throughout the entire process of personal goal setting. I suggest that you write down what you want to do with your life. Until you write a goal, it is only a wish. Written, it becomes a focused objective. Put it down on paper. When it is on paper, boil it down to a single sentence: what you want to do, exactly when you intend to start, exactly when you plan to achieve your goal. Nothing fuzzy or hazy. Everything sharp and clear and definite, no reservations or qualifications. Just one strong, simple, declarative sentence. I want you to make half a dozen copies of that sentence and put them where you'll see them at least 3 times a day. I want that pledge to sink down through all the levels of your conscious mind and deep into your unconscious mind, because that is where it will unlock the energies that you will need to achieve your goal. If setting worthy goals is the first step on the road to success, the second is the belief, the conviction that you are capable of achieving those goals. There has to be in your mind the unshakable image of yourself succeeding at the goal you have set yourself. The more vivid this image is, the most obtainable the goal becomes. Great athletes have always known this. The high jumper sees himself skimming over the bar, the place kicker in football keeps his head down as he kicks, but in his mind's eye, what is action? What prevents people from taking action? How can you prevent procrastination? What does Peale say about taking action? He holds the mental picture of what he wants to happen in the next few seconds. The more intensely he images this before it happens, the higher his confidence in himself and the better his chances of making it happen. 11. Put theory into practice. Now that you have a clearer understanding of the role of a goal and the way in which a plan and action can turn a dream into reality, you are ready to put theory into practice by writing out your own goal or goals. The following 4 steps are designed to help you in this process. Step 1. Brainstorm. On a clean sheet of paper, do some brainstorming about your goals. Jot down possible goals or words about them that come to mind, and do so quickly and freely. Use brainstorming as an opportunity to explore any aspects of any goals you choose. Don't stop to correct your spelling, polish a phrase, reorganize your notes, or analyze a thought. Just keep going until you've jotted down all that you can think of about your possible goals. Next, look over what you've written and group similar items. Formulate each group into a goal by writing a sentence that summarizes its main idea. Step 2. Plan. Focus in on one of the goals you've arrived at, and write it down as a heading on another clean sheet of paper. Beneath that goal, make a chronological list of all the steps you'll need to take in order to achieve it. Step 3. List your strengths. On another sheet, jot down those academic and personal strengths that will help you achieve your goal. These could include skills you already have or classes you have taken, as well as personal qualities such as discipline and perseverance. Step 4. Assess your weaknesses. Identify any academic weaknesses or personal obstacles that you will have to overcome to reach this goal, and list them either alongside your strengths or on a separate sheet of paper. Don't be surprised if you feel a great sense of relief once you've completed these steps. Even if you're not certain that your goal and your plan are precisely on target, at last you have something concrete that you can adjust and refine. You also have an excellent starting point for guidance and advice. Talk with your academic advisor or with a counselor in your school's career center. Don't underestimate the value of discussing your goals and your plans for achieving them. Get as much feedback as you can. Then, if necessary, modify your goals and plans into realistic, attainable maps for your future. By getting into the goal-setting mode, You can put yourself in control not only of your academic life but also of your life after college. How can you use your understanding of goal, plan, and action? What should you do after you've completed the steps? 11 from Norman Vincent Peale, Positive Imaging. Copyright 1982. Published by Revel, a division of Baker Publishing Group. Used with permission. Final words. Goals can change. There's no rule that you can't rethink your objectives after you've defined them. One student seemed genuinely irked that she had to check in with an academic advisor before registering for her first semester of classes. She knew without a doubt that she wanted to go into dentistry and didn't feel that she needed advice from anyone. But the advisor pointed out something she had overlooked. She needed to take an English course in order to meet the college's distribution requirement. That course was a revelation. She fell in love with literature and shifted sharply toward a career in publishing, a goal she pursued with the same passion, determination, and planning that she had originally devoted to dentistry. Yes, goals can change. But that's no excuse to settle for murky, ill-defined objectives. The skills you develop and the lessons you learn in defining your goals will serve you well, no matter where they wind up taking you. What should you do if you're worried that your goals are going to change? Chapter Checkup. Complete the following sentences with one of the 3 words listed below each sentence. 1. Based on many of our common expressions, it seems that a goal is considered a promise, destination, liability. 2. The best way to come up with a plan is to balance wise advice with your own personal shortcomings, experience, success. 3. Goals and plans won't do you any good without action, education, discussion. In each blank space in the left column, write the letter preceding the phrase in the right column that matches the left item best. 1. Frankel, A. Warned that burnout may result if you aren't doing the stuff you like. 2. Thoreau, B. Defined a clear goal of putting Americans on the moon and returning them safely to Earth. 3. Le Bon, C. Suggested that we should regularly ask ourselves what would make us happy. 4. Gould, D. Suggested that those who seem out of step may just hear a different drummer. 5. Peale, E. Notice the collective mindset that emerges when people become part of a crowd. 6. Rao, F. Reported that 85% of students who attempted suicide said that life was meaningless. 7. Williams, G. Used the shout of fire in a theater as an illustration of crowd psychology. 8. Kennedy, H. Advocated vividly picturing a desired goal or objective in your conscious mind. Sentence completion, matching. Circle T beside the true statements and F beside the false statements. 1. TF It's not a good idea to discuss your goals with close friends and family. 2. TF When you join a crowd, your individual thinking is replaced by crowd psychology. 3. TF Norman Vincent Peale was a 19th century naturalist and philosopher who lived in the woods near Walden Pond. 4. TF The purpose of a goal is to give you an idea of where you are headed. 5. TF Health, happiness, and security are all excellent career goals. Choose the word or phrase that completes each sentence most accurately, and circle the letter that precedes it. 1. When it comes to setting goals, GPA stands for a goal, a plan, and ANA. Acumen. B. Article. C. Average. D. Action. 2. Passing a test is generally considered to be a minor goal. B. Major goal. C. Common excuse. D. Scholastic requirement. 3. Once you arrive at a goal, you should stick with it. B. Keep it a secret. C. Write it down as a reminder. D. Come up with a backup goal. 4. Coming up with a plan is like running a race. B. Building a fire. C. Drawing a map. D. None of the above. True false, multiple choice. 5. One of the greatest obstacles to success is procrastination. B. Lack of money. C. Education. D. Boredom. Think about the ideas outlined in this chapter, and then draw upon your own opinions and experiences to answer each question fully. 1. Most of us think of ourselves both as individuals and as members of at least one larger group. In what ways do you follow Thoreau's advice to march to the beat of a different drummer? In what ways do you adhere to Le Bon's observations about crowds? 2. Of the three parts of GPA, a goal, a plan, and action, which is the hardest for you personally? Which is the easiest? Explain. 3. If you haven't done so already, follow the 4 steps for writing out your own goal. What did you learn about yourself when you did this? Did anything about this process surprise you? The Q system uses marginal questions to encourage active reading. You'll notice that most but not all paragraphs in this chapter are accompanied by marginal questions. Now it's your cue. Scan the chapter for any paragraph that is missing a question, reread the paragraph, establish the main idea, and then arrive at a question that elicits it. Use the questions in the surrounding paragraphs as models for your own marginal questions. Vocabulary in action. The English language is alive. It is constantly growing and changing. The same can be said for your own personal vocabulary. To expand the horizons of your understanding and to refine the precision of your thought, it is vital to continually grow, strengthen, and maintain your own vocabulary. The 3 exercises that follow are designed to help you with this fascinating, lifelong pursuit. Say what? To gain lasting insight from a quotation, you need a precise understanding of the words it comprises. From the 3 choices beside each numbered item, select the one that most nearly expresses the meaning of the italicized word in the quote. Make a light check mark next to your choice. Reflection. It's your cue. A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. Nelson Mandela, former President of South Africa. 1. Formidable, impressive, frightening, polite. Truly successful decision-making relies on a balance between deliberate and instinctive thinking. Malcolm Gladwell, British-born Canadian journalist and author. 2. Deliberate, educated, intentional, methodical. 3. Instinctive, habitual, impulsive, primitive. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish ulterior motives. Do good anyway. Dr. Robert Schuller, American evangelist. 4. Ulterior, monetary, hidden, self-serving. 5. Motives, advantages, profits, reasons. Vocabulary. Seemingly unrelated words in our language often share numerous connections. Use your know, edge of word synonyms, prefixes, and roots to connect the word at the top rung to the word at the bottom rung, using the words listed below. Tempo, abstinence, passport, sustenance, pace, temperance.